looking right at that. Yeah, oh,
Hey,
mate, get
it's a
them cuffs out of shot.
kitty. It's a kitty that I have. Wow, your camera does not like to stay down.
We're just gonna do the whole thing with a crotch shot of the cat. Right, there you go.
The crotch shot of you.
Well, crotch shot with whatever.
There's no way I can mangle those two words together.
Right. Hello,
Crotch
everybody.
and cat.
Welcome
Crotch
back.
Crotch
Welcome-
cat is watching you.
Okay. Welcome back to the campfire. We're going to do it correctly this time, and apparently we're also doing a crotch shot from Screenager. You can see he's got a very beautiful pussy.
It's a look. It's just a pussy in between my legs. It's fine.
Blank is done.
I have a plushy pussy. It's not quite the same though.
It's not really.
It's still a cat.
Wow.
Professionalism, guys. Come on, come on.
Really? On the campfire? You're asking for professionalism?
This
I've
is about
seen the
community.
Campfire.
Okay, this is about community, not being professional.
Yes.
No,
Well,
I agree.
here's the thing. For those of you who are unaware, Bid the Dog in the chat is actually Chris Spikeh Sebok, who is the founder, owner, operator, and the developer of a game called Subnet that you can find by going to NineteenStoneNinjas.com. Now, let's move into some crazy stuff. For example, let's start by grilling our guest. Go ahead, Ed. Ask him his first grilling question.
Oh, just throwing it off to me, are we? Okay, because I totally don't have any of the show notes up at all.
What's the first question we
yeah,
ask
no, you
every
do.
guest?
Hey, can you tell me 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself?
Is that
So-
supposed to be a Scottish accent?
It's as close as I'm going to get. Haggis.
I'm not even sure what that is. I can't even place it in the country.
It's
excellent.
I
I
do.
love
It's like someone gave me a kicking when I was trying to do a Kai dream.
Oh, dude, I do Kai. Legit. I do Kai, no problem. Whatever that was an Ed. I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
That was me.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's worthy of casting in a Hollywood movie. That accent. That's brilliant.
Well, yes.
What was the question anyway? What did you ask me?
Oh, would you tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself?
2 truths and 1 lie. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But
2
never
truths and 1
reveal
lie.
which ones they are. Don't ever tell us which ones they are. We just want to know 2 truths and 1 lie, please, if you don't mind.
If you don't mind, how polite of
That
you.
sounded quite English towards the end.
I was gonna say that's 1 that's from Coronation Street, and 2, I'm never that polite.
No, I was doing my Kai.
Shh. That's your cat. You cat anyway.
Right. In answer to your question, Screenager, I. Sorry, it was so good that I obviously mixed you up there. Right. Okay. So 3 truths and 3 truths and 1 lie. No,
2
2
truths and
Right.
1 lie. Wow. Delegation
there,
on
we'll
this
get
show
there,
doesn't
We
work.
can count honest.
Right. Okay. I was running my own development company by the time I was 14. Throughout the 90s, I ran the most successful Quake 2 clan of all time. And I once had a conversation with Philip Seymour Hoffman on MySpace.
Now, Ed, which one of those do you happen to think is a truth, and which ones do you think is lie?
You know, they're all relatively plausible in some way, shape, or form. But I'm gonna say that since none of us can count for shit right now, that running your own company is a bit of a stretch. I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay.
Okay.
But
You all
Josie,
get
what
to,
about
don't
you?
It's not Australian, it's not South African, it's not English or Scottish.
I'm
It's
well
close
traveled.
space.
I've been all over the world.
Transatlantic, maybe?
What?
I have no idea. I would throw out there that you were involved with a successful clan of Quake, but I don't believe you led it.
Okay.
Oh, I think it's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. It's
All
none of it's
rubbish.
true.
It's all fancy pants nonsense, is it?
It is.
All right, yeah.
Pish posh.
That is
Now-
just do I have to tell you?
No,
No.
Nope.
Oh.
no.
No.
Oh.
You
Okay.
never reveal, ever.
Oh, good. I didn't know that. I thought I'd have to
We even
reveal it.
said it. Are you paying attention?
You should listen.
No,
to
I
what
thought
we
you
are
said
more.
I thought you said I didn't have to reveal it until like the end. I thought you said that while you're guessing, I had to keep it to myself.
Nope, we never ever
Fair
reveal.
Now, with hindsight being 2020, could you describe something you've made for a guild or community organization that you've been a part of, and how you felt it was appropriate at the time, but maybe with some more experience in your belt, you would have changed your decision?
Did you understand any of that, or do we need to break that down and translate it from blank space?
I think the audience may have struggled
Subtitles?
to understand
I think we can go with subtitles. Blank, you're officially a foreign language film. With hindsight being 2020, describing the decision that you've made for a guild or community in the past that with hindsight you thought was appropriate at that time, but now you've got 2020 hindsight, you go back and you'd either make a different decision or you change that.
Now, do you need me to translate that for you? Because I can translate that.
I'm good.
Oh, there was the easy shot.
No, that was the whole build-up. That was the whole planned build-up was for you to talk. Well, like I said, being a dig dog.
Ed's accent is actually really understandable for Scottish. I've spoke to some really crazy deep Scottish people.
Wow! Pick on the Scottish person when we've got an independence referendum. Oh no, wait, that's fine. He can't vote because he lives in England, so I'll just keep on firing shots.
You can't vote. You're not even allowed to vote now either.
You know what?
Is that how it's going?
Politics. I love them. Get them out of it. Okay, not what we're on about. Answer the question.
Right. Okay. I actually couldn't think of anything until just then when you asked it. I was trying to think before the show. I actually entered my old Quake 2 clan into a mod. I entered them into a league for a mod that was completely out of our comfort zone, and I really wish that I didn't because it was a really bad decision. And that was back when I ran my Quake 2.
Why? Why was it a bad decision?
You're not supposed to reveal these things. Sorry, go ahead.
No, hang on. You didn't. I haven't revealed the whole answer to that question. There's more to it. Why shouldn't I? Because at the time we were very successful in the mods that we were playing, and it took away the focus. I only had a limited number of people that would turn up for each clan match, and at the time it was like, okay, right, we'll try and get some more people together for this, and it kind of took focus from our main goals. So we were trying to go far in certain leagues, and these other leagues kind of took precedence, and we started failing in the other leagues. So that's my reason for it. Good answer? Happy?
Good answer.
It's a good answer.
Now, the last question, spoken straight up American, is what is one of the most memorable events in your guild, community, gaming history that has given you your own, and it can be personal, organizational sense of accomplishment?
Oh, in a guild or community, again, both of these questions I struggled with because I'm trying to think of gaming-related stuff, but
doesn't necessarily need to be gaming. It could be in your professional life because you're a developer, you're a coder, you've done many things, you've been a part of communities, and communities are more than just people who get together and play games. There are teams as well, and it's a different side of the coin. So,
well, I wouldn't necessarily class it a community, but would you allow me to use my development team as a community?
That is a community.
Is that good enough? Because we don't really interact with anyone but ourselves. Well, it's 3 or 4 of us, isn't it? It's not. When you hear the word community, I assume
more than one.
Droves of people.
Well, I would like to interject that a community of first-person shooters is 5 members, potentially a coach, potentially somebody who sets up their stuff. So you can have smaller communities that are tight-knit, have work really well. So don't worry about the number. It still counts. Okay. So we'd love to hear it.
Well, the only thing that I can really think of is my current situation with my development. Even though we haven't actually released our game yet, I still feel like we've accomplished a lot more between the 3 or 4 of us that have been involved from in most of the development. I've achieved much more with those people than I have in any capacity in my professional life. Personally, not because I don't get me wrong. I do a lot of stuff in professional work, but there's something about the reward that I get from game development and the people that I'm working with that that makes me want to get up in the morning. You know, it's just there's something about it that's rewarding and makes me want to keep doing it and keep going with it. You know, regardless of how much other stuff I've got going on in my life. You know.
Well, that's saying something. I mean, how many people get up and one of their first thoughts is of their community, be it, you know, their gaming community or the people they work with. I know.
Everyone on the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, as sad, yeah, people.
One of my first thoughts when I wake up is, okay, what do I need to do today for this? And then I go, I should probably eat. Maybe.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Maybe.
Oh, no. Nothing takes precedence over caffeine. Caffeine first. Then everyone here in the MMOBuff community afterwards.
I'm not a caffeine person.
What's wrong with you?
I'm pseudo.
I also
what
don't
further definition do we
coffee.
need for what's wrong with me? I'm pseudo. That sums it up pretty darn
Liters of tea. That's how I survive. Constant tea.
Well, is it caffeinated?
No, I don't know. Yes, I presume so. Maybe I can't remember if tea's got coffee in it, or caffeine rather.
Wow.
It doesn't have coffee. Yes, coffee.
No, not
yeah. Anyway, yes, it has caffeine in it.
Right. So let's move into the core topic of today's show, which is all about developer communities. Now, you have heard from basically us for a long time about what it takes to have a community in gaming. But it's a little different when you need to have that direct interaction, say either on a convention floor with a developer, or you're sending in emails protesting their latest change and wanting to, I don't know, flame them and discuss talking about killing their dog because they removed your favorite part of the game, which has happened and we don't agree with. But now you have been working on Subnet for how long?
What are we on? September. Probably about a year and a half now.
Okay.
Something like that.
And you've developed a community already for it.
I've developed. Yes and no. Kind of one of the. It's a.
Right.
You have a community. You don't have a community. One or the other.
No. Hang on. Let me explain myself. You should know by now, Josie, that I do like to ramble a little bit. I think it's a confidence thing more than anything. I've got like 1,100 followers on Twitter. I know it's not loads, but it's quite a lot for, you know, for me as a person. I've never had that many followers in anything. Now I know that a good portion of those followers are just following people to get follow back. A good portion of those followers are following me to because they're genuinely interested in what I'm doing. There are other people that follow. There's many different reasons for following. It's not all I want to be part of your community or I want to play your game. A lot of it is there's no such thing as altruism, you know, in my eyes. It's everyone's doing it for a reason, whether it's reward personally or they actually genuinely are interested and maybe they want to get involved at some point, get an early access or a beta or something. So I don't know. It's a difficult one for me. I think it's really humbling for the few people that I see regularly turn up on my streams and regularly turn up and talk to me on Twitter. It's totally foreign to me as a concept, even though I have been involved in many communities in the past. The developer one it's almost as if, I don't know, it's strange that there's a mix between gamers and other developers, and you don't know a lot of the time who you're speaking to. I think I'm going off on a tangent again here.
Well, what I find interesting is, you know, you are an independent developer, so, you know, you don't have a PR company trying to censor something that you might want to talk about. You don't have some bigwig saying an idea that you're really obsessed with needs to be cut from the game. You really are making a lot of the decisions yourself. So, you know, you sort of have that the barrier that's usually between the community of a game and the developers sort of is removed. I will be curious in the future if we come back and have you on after you've got your game out, how quick you will be to say, I really wish they'd stop talking to me so I could get work done.
I really do expect that to happen, not because of an ego, because that's when a game gets released. And you've got, if 1,000 people following me, at least 100, 200 of those will know, they'll see my tweets and they'll respond to them. Maybe at the most, maybe that's an ambitious estimate, possibly. But you know what I mean? It's I don't know.
Well, that brings up a huge amount of questions and some quite topical content when you say that. Because you say you've got 1,000 followers on Twitter, or just over 1,000 followers on Twitter. So that's all 1,000 people who've got direct contact with you. Now we've recently seen Notch basically leaving Mojang because wants a life back. Now obviously it's to some extent it's maybe different ends of the scale at the moment, but the basic idea is the same. You've got an audience right now that has direct contact to you, and although Josie jokingly says it kind of does it get in your way? Does it get in your way? Building, not get in your way, but does it chew up a vast amount of time dealing and interacting with a community for something that you still got ongoing? And at what point have you had at any point had to draw a line and go, right, ignore this, or I'm not touching that comment, I've got stuff that needs to be done? And do you feel that kind of pull in both directions to actually get stuff done whilst kind of dealing with the community, knowing that these are the people that are potentially going to be paying money for your game?
I'll be honest, that my driver isn't money to start off with. I'll explain that later. But yes, I've been on both sides of it. When I first started, I was very, very active on Twitter. I was speaking to people. I was asking other developers questions. I was trying to advertise the game. I was putting out devlogs. I was, filling in profiles on many different websites to get more profile, etc. And it took up nearly all of my time for a good few months at least. And kind of after that, or before that and after that, I've purposefully avoided social networks because it does take up a lot of time. It's not that I'm being ignorant if I don't respond, but I do always respond at some point. I'll do it in my spare time. I'll do it. This morning I was up at 5:30. I was on responding to people on Twitter from last night because I knew today I had to go to work and do some things. So yeah, it's kind of, I've been on both sides. I've experienced both not being able to put Twitter down from a little bit of, right, I've got to respond to these people because most people say interesting things to me. It's very rarely small talk. It's usually, oh, what's going on? How was this today? How was that?
He says rarely, but a good portion of what you and I talk about is a lot of small talk. I mean, the whole, yeah, that was how I felt this morning. That's sort of a small talk thing.
Okay, that's with yourself. I consider there's a few people that I have a more personal relationship with, and yes, I may do that with those people because I spend more time with them and I know them a little bit more. But when it's people, they're responding to a tweet that I've put out. Generally, that's what I do. I do respond. I do occasionally have moments where I'll go on and spend half an hour responding to people and responding to other people's tweets and getting involved with other people, which is a major important part of it if you want to build a following. But if you just respond, if you just put yours out, people will get wise to it, and they will. If you just respond to people that retweet your stuff, and you can't really be selective about it. You have to either be involved in social networking or put it down and leave it alone. I think, in my eyes, as a developer anyway, at least.
Well, see, this leads into an interesting question to where I turn to Blank, who has a serious amount of expertise under his belt when it comes to the whole concept of networking and using social media for anything. Now, it's one thing to say build the community, say for a gaming community, for example, Viking Nation or Afterlife Gaming or Enigma. I mean, these are the communities that we represent and we're involved in.
I think MMOBuff counts as well. I think you can start throwing that in there.
You think I can? Should we build an MMOBuff community?
There already is one.
There already is one, yes.
Exactly.
I think there's a brilliant community. That's what attracted to me. So that's what attracted to me MMOBuff in the first place when I first applied to be on the data mine. When I sent you an email, it was because the chat was interesting. It was because it wasn't full of spam and idiots. It was full of people who were actually engaging and
that's
interesting.
That's because me and Blank are on the show and not in the chat.
I wasn't talking about this show. I was talking about Datamine.
Oh!
You guys, this is terrible. The community on this. Hi.
Oh, shots fired. Okay, so going back to you, Blank. There is a very difficult and very delicate balancing line that needs to be worked for someone who gets involved in the social media aspect. Be it how much time do you dedicate to running your community or developing your game versus how much time you dedicate to the community. And is there a way to really balance it? Or do you really think that someone else should just have the sole responsibility of doing nothing but maintaining the social awareness, taking care of the PR, and then letting the devs do what they need to do, and then periodically they get together and go, here's a list of questions, answer them?
There are... That was
Sorry,
my
I thought you
question.
were asking me then, but it
No, no,
wasn't,
no.
wasn't it?
I was asking the man down there.
There's two different fields, if you will, for this, and I'm going to address both of them. One is the much larger non-indie audience who have like certain types of funding, things like that. They normally have a group of people who's that's your job, whether it's the PR, marketing, community, whoever. There is normally one person, and for some reason it's always like this like really mousy female. I swear to God, for every it's always this one mousy girl who's like social media. I'm like, who do I talk to? It's always this one girl. Anyways, who is in charge of the whole thing? They watch it, they respond to it, they talk to it, they do all of it.
What's wrong, Ed?
Stereotypes everywhere. I'm not really sure.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see the shovel that Blank's using to dig that hole.
I say it because probably in the last couple months I've met 3 out of 4 stereotypically same everything. Anyways, but they have somebody who's in charge of it, and they're the ones who track Engage or Sprout Social, you know, even if it's something crappy like TweetDeck, and they engage with the communities. Now, like I said, those are for the bigger companies who have that as part of their budgeted, you know.
Second unprofessional thing that's gone on tonight.
I am so sorry.
Wow, no complaints about the cursing this week, I think.
Yep.
And
I have
Blank
stopped
now
complaining about the cursing. It's gotten to the point with you guys where I'm like, you're just gonna fucking say something. So there, shots fired.
Blank's
Go
lost
ahead.
his flow now.
Oh no! Listen, when you're a Viking, you can flow. Sometimes you gotta pause in the middle of your flow to then keep your flow going. Yeah.
Flex
Second
one
part
more
is
time.
indie.
You know you want to. Healthy gamer.
We'll talk about that in a second. What I will say for indie, it's different though because a lot of them are founded in whether it's Patreon or Kickstarter or whatever crowdfunding, and it's very different. Instead of it being a part of their, and it really is based on company structure. Instead of it being like this, you're under marketing, your job is social media. It's I'm good at this. Let me do this as part of the team on my spare time. Somebody normally volunteers, and they're a part of doing it organically. Again, that's not to say there aren't Kickstarter things that don't have people that their social media is just their job, but it is very different depending on the type of company. Where somebody's either volunteering their time to do it in their spare time, it's normally 1 or 2 people, or it's somebody whose job, it's part of what they do. Engaging is a very important part of what they do. And you know, even as a team, they'll have like their little -A or -E or -J, you know, to know who's tweeting from where. It's especially, and I want to segue a little bit towards that. I don't know if we'll go anywhere. For the Kickstarting and crowdfunding community for indie games, it is huge. The only way you're going to crowdfund anything is if there's a flipping crowd there to give you money. So, that being said,
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to just quickly pipe in. In fact, if anyone is looking at doing crowdfunding or getting involved in anything like that, you really need to watch Datamine this week. Last week, and the episode will be up on YouTube very soon, it was Kickstarter Part 1. This upcoming Thursday, we're going to be doing Kickstarter Part 2. In one episode, we could only get through the prep. We didn't even touch what you needed to do when you actually launched a Kickstarter or a crowdfunded Indiegogo, whatever. It's a nightmare. But yes, a lot of the developers that I have spoken with who have gone through crowdfunding have stated that they had to bring someone in whose sole purpose was to do nothing but do all of that crowd and
But
PR
point at
stuff and
themselves,
social
yeah.
stuff. Because in all honesty, the devs have so much they need to do, including going to interviews, being a part of blogs that need to be created, doing video things, putting up updates, talking about stuff, spreading the word, etc. You really do need
Making a
someone to help
game.
take care of things.
Yeah, don't forget the most important part there.
Well,
of course.
usually the developers have to take that time off to do nothing but advertise. So the prep work you do is getting as much of the game done as you can, so you can present it in demo formats or some kind of prototype, etc., and then going off on it. But yes. Go ahead, Gary.
I was gonna say that this is you focused in that comment a lot on prior to launch, and about having people coming in to manage social media and Kickstarter campaigns. But from a developer's point of view, that's not necessarily going to end just at getting enough cash to get off the ground. That's going to continue on through the launch of the game and through the life of the game, isn't it? And it's still going to... It's probably worth someone more knowledgeable than myself speaking on this, but that pool's going to be there the whole way through the game, and to some extent, might it even be a case that a community is more of a, shall we say, burden on time to a developer if they are... You haven't even let me finish my comments, so feel free to jump in right now. Go on.
I agree to a point, but we've played games for a while. Now I'm going to suggest this and see if you agree with me. Is it not true that the focus from developers, and your position may be different, Chris, that the focus is to an end game point? I will use the last couple games I've been a part of as examples. ArcAge. They had to narrow down where they were communicating. They didn't even tweet during their head start all weekend. They only posted on the forums because they had limited community managers and time to do so. WildStar, huge. We talk to everybody. We do all this community stuff. Look at us helping all these people. Now they have 1 or 2 Twitch shows, and that's it. It seems... we go back to even Guild Wars 2. Pick them. PlanetSide 2. Firefall. Good God, Firefall. They are working towards that end goal. But it seems, and I don't know if it's by design, I don't know if it's because people get fired, I don't know if whatever it may be. Once that goal has been met, CM and social media engagement takes a huge crap. So I agree with you that the focus is to continue doing that through the objective, but that follow-through rarely happens. Would you agree?
Game companies are AAA game companies. Let's just make the distinction. AAA game companies are they're run by business. They're not run by gamers and people and the developers. Indie companies are run by the developers. I can 100% guarantee you. I think there's also different types of indie companies as well.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the bedroom coders. You've got the people who. I consider myself a kind of a hobbyist that's taking it very, very seriously and treating it like a business. You know, at the same time. So
you're a hardcore hobbyist.
Pretty. That's an in-joke, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Just me being stupid.
Hobbyist or hardcore.
Just hardcore, because everyone hates using the term hardcore when it comes to MMOs because there's so many bad connotations to it. So we
gaming in
use
general.
Every possible chance we can.
You can call me whatever you want, Pat. Just call me hardcore if you want. I do spend all of my time doing game development or working. Basically, that's basically what I do shows like this, or I do my own shows and stuff. So I'm always doing things community based or development based.
Yeah.
But I know that I'll still continue to do that after I finish development. At the moment, my streams are focused on development. You know, I'm doing other gaming streams on the side as well, but I'll always have time for the people that I built relationships up with, because they are personal relationships and they are not. They're not linked to the game. Most of them. Most of the people that I speak to actually are other developers that are just interested in how I'm doing things, and we bounce off each other quite a lot. It's quite a different community in general, I think. Like the hash game dev tag on Twitter is full of game developers of all types. I mean,
Yes,
I be honest, I imagine AAAs don't get involved because of all the privacy
Actually,
they have to uphold.
some of them do. Some of them do. That's the thing, no company is the same. No company has the same quote unquote standards. There's always going to be those who teeter on the erring side of, if you want to talk to a developer, they have very strict things they're allowed to talk about and not allowed to talk about. And others are like, we don't care. Say what you want. Just know if you get into something that requires us to get legal involved, you're fired. So, know, there are different levels. What I have a question for you, I mean, you're building good relationships with the people that you currently have. Let's say Subnet comes out. Let's say it blows up. Let's say for some strange reason it's gotten really, really, really popular. How do you handle the fact that you get new people? How do you build relationships with new people without worrying about losing your touch with the old?
I don't think... Again, I think there's a lot of different types of people in a community. There are people like yourselves who are very, very, very involved in community and live it, you know? From what I can tell from what you guys have said on previous shows and from what I've seen from the other shows, MMOBuff and people involved are just passionate, you know, at the end of the day. Not everybody in a community is like that. And we know this, all of us know this from experience, and I can say that without one of you replying, you know. Not everyone is totally different. And the people that you get from a game launch may only be sticking around for that game. They may not be interested in the next thing that I do. But if I build a relationship with them personally, on a personal level, to the point of I'm asking them what they're doing, and they're again coming into all my shows and my streams and stuff, and they're getting involved, then it's different. It's the people who I will respond to everybody on Twitter, regardless, at some point. Whether it's I've got a system now that I know exactly what I have and haven't done. If I don't respond, they'll always get a like or a retweet or something. If I don't a favorite, sorry, not a like on Facebook. Getting old.
Plus one. Plus one. Sorry, got to throw Google in there. Or
but you know what I mean? It's like
heart if you're on a nuke.
Or MMOBuff with your little.
I'm sure we should use stars. We should have gold, silver, and bronze stars. Possibly a unicorn. Oh, we should have unicorns and rainbows. That's what we should have. Put that on the website plan: unicorns and rainbows.
That didn't answer my question, though, Chris. You did an excellent job of circumventing the question I asked you.
Sorry.
I'm not going to let you get away with it.
Can you repeat the question, please? You know what I'm like.
How do you handle having that sort of relationship with people who may be coming in later and still maintaining the relationships you're building right now? Because just simply, replying lol to somebody or favoriting them on Twitter is not building a relationship. Interactions do. So how are you planning on handling that?
I am a verbose person, as you are already aware. And I'm just as verbose on Twitter. I will fill all 140 characters and then some. And I always have a conversation with people. I won't just reply with a lol or a ruffle unless it's somebody I know and I've already got a relationship with them. However, I suppose I don't know. I don't know because I haven't been there. I can't really answer that. I can't really say.
That's the thing. I was just curious. Now, Blank is sitting here telling me that I'm wrong. Do you mean to tell me that building a relationship with someone only requires you to favorite their tweets and retweet them? That actually builds a relationship.
Here, I just wrote it down for you here. I'm going to put this in a fun little context for you.
Come on.
On TweetDeck, I have a couple of followers who are, I'm not quite sure the social word for them, so I'm going to make it as nice as possible. They're what I consider these famous people social butterflies, where they find somebody that they really like, and they do this whole team famous person. Their whole entire day goes nuts when this person favorites and or potentially retweets their stuff. That is still engagement. It may not be
different than a relationship.
You're engaging in a particular type of relationship. When I retweet somebody's stuff, they lose their nuts or titties on Twitch chat. They're like, "Oh my God, you retweeted my stuff! I love you so much! Woo!" That still is building rapport and a relationship with somebody. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I'm not. I know exactly where you're coming from there because I can come from the gamer perspective as well. Because I don't really have an ego when it comes to Twitter. You know, I've got 1,100 followers, but that doesn't mean anything. You know, and it's at the end of the day, every person is worth the same as every other person, unless I know them personally. As I said, it's a bit different when you get to that stage of relationship. But I know that when someone who is slightly famous in the indie dev world retweets one of my posts, or they follow me, or they like something, maybe not liking, I don't know, like, you know, what?
No, keep going. I'm cheering you on.
He's mimicking me.
No, I'm not. No. What happens? What happens when?
But then once I get quite excited. I don't go retweeting and I don't go going, oh, this is amazing. I don't do that. But I do feel a sense of, wow, that person's found me interesting. And I continue to follow a number of people who haven't followed
Now,
me
see,
back.
to me, that is just simple engagement. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is simple engagement. Relationships, to me, are being able to, when I see someone put out a tweet, be able to respond to them and go, hey, by the way, how was that meeting last week that you were a part of? That, to me, is more of a relationship than just an engagement. Engagement seems kind of silhouette-y, two-dimensional, whereas relationship is more three-dimensional to me. So is it semantics we're arguing over here?
Maybe.
No. I would disagree.
I want Ed to speak up real quick. Oh, hold on one second, Flake. I want Ed to speak up because he's been quiet.
Honestly, I think you probably are arguing semantics at this point. I think you both understand what you're saying. I think you're both coming at something from a different point of view. Chris is he's talking about his own personal experience, and Black, you're talking from a much more marketing perspective. But you're basically saying the same thing from a different perspective. What I found interesting was how Chris was looking at community building rather than it being something that we may have looked at. We may have looked at AAA games a lot here at MMOBuff, and how AAA games build a community for a specific game, whereas a smaller scale, say an indie dev scale, Chris is representing a way of building a community that is as much about having a network of people and that being a longer term thing. So he's not building a community just specifically for a game and then move on, but he's building a network of people that can foster a community across potentially a longer period of time. That's what I'm kind of gathering from that, and it's a different way of looking at it.
All famous. I say famous with with inverted commas because again, all famous indie devs tend to have their own Twitter accounts, and those are the ones that get all the followers. Those are the ones that are interested. I'm talking a lot about Twitter here, but not very much about Facebook or any of the other social media things. But basically, Twitter is where I do most of my stuff, so that's why. But yeah, it also annoys. Sorry, I'm making a slight segue here, but it also annoys me quite a bit when other developers don't engage me at all. Especially, and it especially comes from the higher end indie devs. I know they might be busy. I know they might have loads of tweets. They've got loads of followers and all that. But over a period of a year, some people I've continued to follow because I found them interesting. I've responded to quite a lot of tweets. Not a single favorite. Not a single retweet. Not a single.
Acknowledgement.
Not a single acknowledgement. Well, it's a reply I'm looking for more than anything, and it's just, yeah, mate, that's funny. You know, I've had a few retweets from or whatever from people, and it's just nice to get it. As it makes you feel like a developer community, you know.
Does the way that other people within the development community and with the indie community, how they act, does that reflect the way that you react with your community, bearing in mind what you said? So has that impacted you to have a much more hands-on approach rather than spur your own community or network of people to kind of build their own community? You've a much more hands-on approach.
It's a good question.
Because of your experience.
If you ask another indie dev, they may give you a very different answer because, again, we are indies. But I personally enjoy it. I would have done it anyway, regardless of what all these other developers done. There are a number of indie devs of the famous ilk that I don't agree with how they run the Twitter accounts, but that's their personal prerogative. You know, it's up to them. I've since unfollowed and blocked certain indie devs because they've been ignorant. because I mean, blocking's quite a severe thing on social networking, and I may
There
run
are
into them
certain
at some
ones who
point.
deserve it.
I may run into the same people in real life at some point at an event, and I may go, you know what, I misjudged you. I misunderstood what you did online. Let's call it a day, and we'll follow each other again, whatever.
So from a purely selfish perspective, and I do mean this from a purely selfish perspective, what does a community, as a developer, what does a community give to you, other than, obviously, communities build themselves and they provide social interaction with other people that have a similar interest to, say, a particular game or a developer. But from, say, a purely selfish point of view, do you get things like, for example, do they give you back? Do you get feedback, for example, from a community? What do you gain from building that community other than potential box sales?
As I said, my interests are not for the money at the moment.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to live off it, don't get me wrong, but I'm a realist at the end of the day, and I realise that I can't do that unless something crazy happens, and it does blow up. But I do it for the pure support reasons. That I like to hear from other indie developers. I like to hear feedback from gamers. I am not at the stage now where I have loads and loads of gamers following me. Most people that follow me are indie devs as well as gamers,
You should be the gamer if you're going to go into game development. I'm just telling you. If you don't, you're going to screw something up. Holy cow.
But it's really nice to get that support from other people. It's really nice to get that sense of community. If you look back on my Twitter feed from when I first started a year ago or whatever, you'll see there's loads of tweets coming out going, the game dev community is amazing on Twitter. I'm really happy that everyone helps everybody. You put out a tweet, you're having a struggle with a piece of code or something, and people will respond. One way or the other, they'll send you a link. Or I haven't had anything negative or nasty from any of my community.
A piece of code. I heard cord, and I just thought you were talking about the game, Kerry.
No.
Wow.
Code. I'm afraid I'm from the northeast, so I've got that extra O in everything.
Wow. So, Blake,
but it's really nice.
That
feedback is really nice. That's the main reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Blake, you were going to say something, and I'm pretty certain you were busy writing something down.
Oh, I'm writing some notes down from the show. That we were back talking about social media stuff. We've kind of gone past that now. I would like to throw a question to you. You said that the dev community is really nice. I would like to bring a little challenge to that, or maybe in your experience. Do you work by yourself? Do you have a team? You're working on a project. Have you had the experience where somebody in your team decided they're going to leave with that piece of code or something like that? There are things like, if you guys remember the struggle the guy had who made Fez, that was some Crazy Town stuff that does happen. It may not be the same level as AAA, because AAA, everyone puts the suits on, everyone's really nice to each other, and even if you don't like somebody, they're all smiley to each other, even though you're like, those guys totally hate each other. Yeah. Indie scene seems a lot more relaxed, a lot more, they'll hand out a little bit of code, but is there still that line, and is that line based purely on potential box sales and money?
There are two things here. Again, I may be answering this very different from other indie devs. Some indie devs want the money. That's what they're doing it for. They need to make a living. They want to make as many games as they can as quickly as they can, or they want to make one big hit. I'm doing it because I wanted to make this game forever, and it's just so happens that I'm in the right place in my life that I can do it. In terms of people running away with code, I know it could still happen, but I'm a very business-oriented person because of my real professional work, real-life stuff. That means that I have got contracts in place, I've got NDAs in place with people. So legally, and I make sure I get ID from everybody, and I do it properly. I make sure that everybody involved in the team who's going to have access to the source code, or going to have access to the game design documents, or the detail surrounding the concept art, and all of the other stuff that we have to do in the background, those people are all fully signed up before they even get sight of it. If they did run off with it, then that would be a very different matter. There would probably be legal recourse of some sort, because we have addresses, we have identification, we know who everyone is. I've had lots of people leave the project. Lots of people leave the project, more than you would probably think. But they haven't been. It hasn't been a negative thing. I tend to not run my mouth off online either. I tend to keep it to myself. I'm opinionated. Don't get me wrong, but if a fight starts, or someone starts kicking off about something, or someone says something about I don't know. Anything that's maybe not politically correct or anything, I'll stay away from it. You know, as much as my.
So no comments about Gamergate. No comments about Gamergate. No.
In my professional opinion.
That's one hell of a start.
No, I really don't know much about Gamergate. I've been keeping away from it. But no, honestly, I do literally just. I hate politics and bureaucracy in my real life. So I do not want it in my gamer life. That's my hobby. That's what I love doing.
Some people use it as a platform. I'm throwing that out there. Some people like those dramas. They use it as a platform. They use it as a way to get themselves climbed up the old social ladder and stuff like that. And it's good to hear that that's not something that you're interested in, because it does happen from time to time.
Oh yeah.
I quite often again unfollow people that have an agenda, and you can tell by the way that they tweet. My agenda is very much shameless self-promotion, because that's the only way you get anywhere in this world.
My question to you, Chris, is then how do you distinguish the two? Because I know my own personal line, but how do you distinguish somebody who's, because I very, very opinionated, and my social media is my own. Everybody knows I do what I want, which is ridiculous how I get away with it somehow. But for me, if I say something, it's because I honestly, genuinely feel it. Most people know that about me. There's no agenda, there's no nothing for me. If I say it, it's how I feel. For you, professionally, where do you draw that line where you're like, this is something important to me, but I'm not going to say anything, or am I going to say something? And then conversely, for yourself, afterwards, who do you block? Who are you just like, I can see the platform, dude. Do you need some more wood for that thing?
Let me give you an example of something that made me rethink how I approach social media. A while back, this was just my opinion, and it's all on me. This has nothing to do with MMOBuff or anything else. Someone was trying to arrange a local meetup in our local area for game developers, and it was specifically at the time, at the first tweet that went out, it was for gay game developers. And I said, well, what's the advantage for that? Now, let me just point out that I had nothing against it because it was gay. I had something against it because it was segregating a group of people, or it was separating game developers from gay game developers. That was my issue, and I pushed the point with this one or two people, and I had people from some very well-known publications, journalists and things, getting involved and starting to jump on the bandwagon and saying, that they were doing everything in their power to make me out to be homophobic. Everything in their power, and I just responded with quite calm responses. Just, this is what I believe. This is what you've said. This is what I think. This is why I think it's wrong. That's what I would do. I would be careful and considered with anything that I really felt about. But usually, I've learned. I'm old enough and stupid enough now to learn that just keep away from it, because it doesn't affect me. It doesn't make my life any different. There's so many topics in game dev that. In the games industry that is I see in other industries, and everyone thinks they're special, and everyone thinks that their industry has got all the problems in the world, and everyone's the same. And I just think, well, you know what? I'm happy developing. I'm happy speaking to the people I'm speaking to. If that means that I've got 1,000 followers for the rest of my life, I'm happy with that. I'd rather have that than 40,000, 50,000 followers, and have loads of people who are sycophants, or people that are following me because they only agree with my sentiments on certain political subjects.
That's a very viable thing. And here is where we say, any last words before we move on to the next thing, which I think believes with Blank having to go.
I do. So I won't get to say goodbye, but what I will say is this. It is very interesting that in community, and I hope we put this on a docket to talk about here in the future, because we've talked about inclusive and exclusive communities, but where do you draw that line where there's everything from your safe space communities that, and I put them in quotations because I love where they're going, but I don't really agree with how they're going there, where they're creating places that are soft and gentle on the internet, which to me is kind of crazy. And then to the other opposite side, where somebody from down south who grew up in the KKK, I literally had an army buddy who was just like, this is the way we grew up, man. Like, I didn't know anything different until I got out there. Like, they have their spaces, and they would consider that a safe space for them. Where do we draw those sort of lines for what's acceptable and unacceptable as the world continues to grow and our understanding of things change? When I was growing up, smoking weed was a terrible thing. Nowadays, you live in Colorado, get down to the local haberdashery or whatever you want to call it, and get your deal.
Haberdashery.
Do you know what
That's where you get your
haberdashery
pants sewn up, mate.
Yeah, I was about to say haberdashery is a sewing thing.
Hold on. I'll just check for some weed in here.
There might be some.
There's some
at least
sparkly
two down the road. I'm
spandex.
going right now.
Yeah.
Well, here's
Bit velvet in here. Oh yes, there's the
the thing.
crack cocaine
It's-
just in between.
what you're bringing up, Blink, is an incredibly valid and on-point topic
was,
that
yes,
we will
sorry.
be talking about. Ed, that is on your docket, as you know, since you help us organize the Campfire. Blink, I want you to know that I miss, adore, and love you, and I do need to speak with you at some point this week. So if you would not mind, and of course, because we do that thing.
Elephant dicks.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad it was an elephant dick because I was.
So do
confused.
you want to put your board up?
We only no. I wiped it off. It's clean. We're good. This is for. I have a Kappa face. This is the best thing I've ever drawn in my life. Somebody donated and said, "Will you draw a Kappa face?" And I drew that. I'm like, I'm never wiping that off ever. That's the best piece of art. Like, if I brought this back to high school, my teacher would be proud. She would probably remove that D and give me an A.
You've grown as a person, Blank.
I have.
and an artist.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna pause my camera, mute my mic. You guys have a great rest of the campfire, and I will see you again soon. Chris, it was wonderful to meet you.
You too, matey. Catch you later.
Okay. Well, we are going to say bye-bye to Blankies, but we have a couple of things that we'd like to share with you guys before we disappear. To start off with, Chris, are there any websites or anything that you might want people to be aware about? Maybe perhaps your own, or maybe somebody who you think is really awesome that people should be aware of. I asked you this before the show, so hopefully you followed through.
Yes.
Did you?
I have got a number of things that I would like to pimp as such. A couple of them are mine, but there is quite a lot of game dev stuff as well that I'd like to talk about very briefly. I won't make it too quick.
Your best bet is to start saying what they are and link them, because we're
Okay.
getting very close to the time we need to end.
Okay, if you're interested in Subnet, my game, me, or anything to do with the studio, follow at 19ninjas, which should be below me, I believe.
You're above you.
It's above me. There we go. It's usually below me. It's above me now.
It depends on what show you're on.
Also, I do another show called Resonance Arcade, which is at Resonance Arcade. Resonance Arcade, as in the Resonance
You expect
Cascade from
gamers to know how
Half-Life.
to spell? Hearts?
Yeah.
Don't hate
Anyway,
you.
I'll post it into the chat in a minute. But that's
Random fact, I used to be in a band. One of our songs was a two-parter, 8-minute song. First part called Resonance, second part called Cascade.
Nice, good stuff. Anyway, that's it's a games talk show. We just talk about games and what we love, and we're also doing some playthroughs of games, Metal Gear Solid and some other game at the moment. I can't remember. Probably Gears of War this week, I think. Also, in terms of other games that I'm quite big on, there's only one that I want to mention. There's a guy on Twitter called Zapakitul. I shall paste that in chat as well. But he's doing a game called Mutant Gangland, which is a turn-based strategy game, and it's very good. I mean, he's struggling at the moment, unfortunately, with real life and work and stuff. But he's really still pushing it. It's in a really good state, and it's a really good turn-based strategy game. Get on it if you're interested. Last two things, two hashtags that I want to mention from Twitter because they have helped me out immensely. And the two fairly big communities. One is hashtag Indie Dev Hour. That's actually run by Slater, who's in the chat, and I forgot Cheeky Sprite Studios. That's the other one. It's every Wednesday at 7:30. A lot of indie devs get together and just talk about the games and about other things. I know it sounds a bit daft on Twitter, but it really does bring out a sense of community within for that 1 hour. It's really everyone's getting involved. And the last one, which is a fairly recent one, is hashtag Indie Team Up. That's run by a girl called Colleen Wilson from America rather. And that is if you Sorry.
No,
is
it's
if you
all
want
right.
to team up with other indie devs and get people on your team to do things, whatever it be, art, programmers, game designers, sound designers, things like that. Everyone gets involved with that, and I found that to be quite useful and quite cool as a community as well. And the only other thing was the data mine.
That hashtag just struck me as like something that the Power Rangers. I do not know why. I just see you're a nerd in spandex shouting indie team up.
Indie team up!
Well, that is one of the things and one of the reasons why we do the data mine. It's all about the indie devs. Trying to get them all together to talk about stuff.
Okay.
Yes, it's all about getting indie devs into spandex.
Yes, if you want, send me some spandex, I'll do it.
I have quite a lot here, actually.
I was about to say, you are so screwed, Chris. So screwed. Right.
You have to find my address first.
Oh, that's not hard.
No, it isn't actually.
Anyway, before this gets used as evidence, let's carry on.
Yes. So those are some links from Chris. Now, as you know, here at the Campfire, we are huge supporters of charity events. So we have a couple of charity things to tell you about. Hit it, Ed.
We do indeed. I'll try and make this quick for all of you that are hanging around and can't be arsed to listen to my Scottish ramblings. So, first charity event on the list is Pink Day in LA. We've already talked about this before. It is from the group of gamers that banded together a few years ago in Guild Wars 2. You may, if you've played the game, seen it round about this time of year, people dressing up in pink in Guild Wars 2. They raised a ton of money for the Canadian Cancer Society last time they did it, I believe. Check out the link there. They're still in planning. They need volunteers. They need volunteers for pretty much every server they're on to run events and generally help out. You don't have to donate any money, just a little bit of your time, so feel free to give that a look and put yourself forward. We also have a Datamine Charity Game Jam that's coming up that's being hosted by our very own Cyril. I'm going to let Cyril talk a bit about that for a couple of moments.
Yes, in fact, December 12th through the 14th, we are going to be doing a 48-hour live stream on Twitch of a game jam, starting from when everybody finds out what the topic is going to be to the finished prototype. It is all being done for charity. We're working with Healing Over Time to produce the charities that we're going to be donating to. There will be prizes for the people involved. There will be prizes for people who watch us. There will be prizes for people who donate. It's going to be massive. It's going to be big. More news will be coming to the site. Pay attention to all the social media for that stuff. But yes, we have the Datamine Charity Game Jam coming up very, very soon, and it will be December 12th through the 14th.
Mm-hmm. We've got a couple more things.
That guy you see right there is one of our team leaders.
Yeah, shut up, Ed.
God, I was going to say, God help you. Anyway, we have a couple more things we want to squeeze in just before we start doing the wrap-up for this week. There's a couple of things that we thought you might want to know about. First of all, Gamer X or G3X, I think it's called now. The next year's Gamer X has now reached its total. They've still got 55 hours left to go. So if you wanted to go and have a look at kickstarting that, the GamerX Everyone Games site has actually they've actually changed their they've changed slightly from previous years. They've been a LGBT video gaming con. They have changed slightly to be fully inclusive for, I believe their words are, anyone that feels out of place within gaming. So they're not just primarily a lesbian, gay, bi and transsexual gaming con now. They are inclusive of everyone, which kind of reflects something that Chris was saying earlier about being inclusive. So they're a good cause. We've had a number of people that are involved in that on the show previously, so you might want to go and have a look. Also, as a non-charity type thing, but you might be interested, if any of you are coming to Eurogamer, and it's an indie-related thing, so I figured we'd throw it in. There's going to be free showings of From Bedroom to Billions, an indie documentary film that was, I believe it was Kickstarted off the top of my head.
It was.
There's still tickets available for the Friday night. It's a free showing, so if you go into Eurogamer or about in London, want to learn a little bit more about the indie scene back in the day, and a bit more about it now, then you might want to have a look at this. I'll post it in chat. other than that, that's a lot of the things you might want to look into this week relating to charity and some of the events going on. Cyril, do you want to let us know what's coming up next week?
Well, next week, we'll get to. Right. As you may have heard, to continue on with what Ed said about Eurogamer, we, as a reminder, are going to be sitting down with some people from ArenaNet to talk about Guild Wars 2 for Convergence, which will be 2 hours earlier next week, because we'll be doing it from the Twitch floor at Eurogamer. We'll be doing it through their booth. So if you have questions, get in touch with us, please. Voice at MMOBuff.TV. We are giving away random gifts to people. So if you happen to send in your question, don't be surprised if you get an email from us going, "So, want a toaster?" Or something like that. You never know what they'll give you. They have so much crazy stuff. You never know. But we will be giving some things away. So please get your questions in by Friday. That's our cutoff date. We've had quite a few already, but if you have a question that you really want answered, get it to us. Again, reminder about the Game Jam. Start practicing now. If you really want to get into game development, this is the way to do it. And that's an awesome wife. Just like my husband brings me stuff in the middle of shows as well. But yes, if you want to get into game dev, start learning about all of the different UIs, start learning about the different game engines, start learning about how to, say, create graphics, sprites, etc. Do that research now so that when the time comes for people to fill in an application to join the Game Jam, we can place you in a good place, because we're going to want to see proof of your ability to do stuff. Don't come in thinking you can just be an ideas guy. Sorry, it ain't going to work. We need people
Because
to
I've
pull
got
their
all the
weight.
ideas.
It's 48 hours to go from concept or idea to concept and prototype. No time can be sat there with someone going, well, maybe we should do... No, it doesn't work that way. You've got to work really quick. So do that. On top of that, we want your feedback for our website, so please go to MMOBuff.TV. At the very top, you'll see a thingy you can click. We want your feedback. People who give us feedback, guess what? You're entered into something to draw, something to win, and it might have something to do with what's going on the Blizzard forecast tomorrow. Tomorrow's Blizzard forecast, we're going to start giving away one of 300 beta keys for Warlords of Draenor.
We've just got one or two, it's fine.
We
I'm
just have a
keeping
couple.
about 233.
Yeah, we only
It's
have
fine.
a couple that we're going to be getting rid of. But hello, Miss Sebok. Thank you so much for loaning us, Mr. Spikey.
Sebok.
Sebok. Is it Sebok? I like Sebok.
Sebok.
Sebok. Fine, you're a Sebok. It just sounds like... It's just...
Stop segueing! We've got codes! We've got Warlords codes and you're segueing!
I know, I'm so sorry. So we have Warlords of Draenor beta keys that we are going to start giving away on tomorrow night's Blizzard forecast. Ryakachi, along with... Oh my gosh, don't lose the name. I've lost the name. Duh, I feel really silly and I'm really sorry.
Minion, he has a minion, it's fine. We'll just call it his minion.
Mizpah.
Minion. Golem!
I forgot.
Golem!
Oh my god, is he such a thief? Mizpah, Ryakachi, and oh gosh, now I forgot the other one's name. Ugh, sorry, are going to be going in to Diablo 3, doing hardcore mode tomorrow night, and giving away keys.
Oh, you did not put Golem in with them on a co-op game.
They did it last week. They're doing it again this week.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It kind of makes my brain explode. Now, coming up this Thursday during the daytime at 1 p.m. If you're into independent development, the data mine is on. We have Daniel Tyndall from Elysian Shadows. Elysian Shadows just got successfully crowdfunded through Kickstarter, and he is going to join Adam, myself, and Patrick, who is also from Elysian Shadows, to discuss the next level of Kickstarter. And it's all about the art of Kickstarter, and that's what we'll be talking about then. Now, at night, though, you all need to force Ryakachi to play the game you want him to play. Now, this is a fun thing. Ryakachi streams on Thursday nights, but he streams what you want him to play. Heck, he even played Hello Kitty. Bald-headed, tattooed buff man playing Hello Kitty online. He did it. I take my hat off to him. And it was interesting to learn that the only thing he could do was do farm or do mini games. And it frustrated him, so he went to play Naruto instead, without telling me so that I could make certain changes. You see this, Ryakachi? You and me, we're going to have it out. No, I'm just joking. So if you want to tell him what to do, there is his straw poll. Get involved, force him to play the game you want him to play. And heck, if you get any information to me about games you might want him to play, I will happily add them to the list. Anyway, Friday, we have Mizpah joining Ed and myself as we talk all about WildStar this week. And we have a couple of things to reveal. I do believe I hinted at something about a Chewa breeding book, maybe?
Might be
maybe?
something.
Maybe.
Might want to drop this in on the chat as well. We might have a few codes. So if you've been watching the WildStar Twitter recently, they've been running a Mr. Fancy Pants competition. Well, Carbine are not the only people that have Fancy Pant codes to give away. We have a stack, and we should be giving some of these away on Friday. So if you want a top hat, a monocle, and to look like Mr. Fancy Chua, then tune in.
Yes. So there is that. Now, this does lead us into the weekend where we hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Some people may be streaming throughout the weekend. Monday, though, join Ed, myself, Aussie, and Mizpah the thieving bastard as we step back into Gauntlet. But the day before it comes out, we have been given access. And there is a possibility that we'll have a dev joining us as well.
The only time that I get devs over my shoulder is at Gamescoms and at games conventions, and that's normally when they're going, press B, press B, press B. You're running into a wall. No, don't go that way. And you're just like, I'm trying to play the game badly, but, you know, it never ends well. It just ends with them going, press that, press that.
Exactly.
Go there.
Which then leads us into Tuesday of next week. Ed? Do we have a guest for next week?
We don't have our guest scheduled at the moment, but we're sure to let everyone know. But usually, you know what it's like. It's usually a surprise, and we usually jump it on the on our audience. So you'll have to turn up next week to find out who it is.
Yep. And the final thing is we've started a brand new series on MMOBuff.TV on YouTube, and it is known as Secure Gamer. And this does mean that if you're interested in getting a bit more secure in your gaming, it's the thing to watch. And for those of you who actually would like to see it, I shall put the link up. So that leads me to say, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. He's muted himself.
I was typing and my mic was muted then.
Yes.
Bye, thank you.
Oh,
yep.
My keyboard's particularly loud, so.
Yep. And Ed, an absolute pleasure as always. We really need to gang up on Mizpah and kill him and loot his body.
I have one thing to say about that. Macaroons. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. Love to you all. Bye, bye.